forget. Anybody ever do that? Forget to record the damn thing? I've been there before. I'm not gonna make that mistake. All right, we're recording. Share screen over here. Okay, good. And if I'm seeing this correctly, you guys should be able to see my screen with the presentation on it. Yep. All right, good. And then I can see you guys over here on my right-hand side. So that's good. Let me open up a chat. That way, if anybody pops in with questions, I see the chat also. It's like I've done this before. Don't worry. All right, rock and roll. We're going to get right into it because I know you're all very busy and you got a lot of things you want to do. And I appreciate you being here with me this evening. So this is how busy business owners can tell their story, turning an idea into a best-selling book in 30 days or less. How do I know this is possible? I've done it 3 times now. And so when I say this, it is with the preface that my first book did take me approximately 18 months to complete. But that was of my own doing because I chose not to get after it and do the work once I started having the process that was laid out in front of me. I just got lazy, to be honest with you. I put it on the back burner and didn't work on it. But this is what I do know. When you are focused, when you're intentional, and you have the blueprint that I'm about to lay out for you, you can literally get your book written and published and probably go on to be a bestseller within 30 days. So here's how we're going to get started. All right, who am I and why do you want to listen to me? Again, my name is Drewbie Wilson. I am the owner of a little company called Call the Damn Leads. I am also a 2-time best-selling author on Amazon. I have a 3rd book that I released that was very industry specific. And I also have a 4th book coming, which is why you're all here. So I was so excited getting this new book written that I thought I need to go out here and I need to share this with my friends and my family and anyone who I know who has an amazing story and they want to go out there and they want to write their book, but they don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars on publishers and editors the way that I did, because to be honest with you, it's really not necessary anymore. So what are we going to focus on tonight? We're going to focus on why to write a book, where you should get started, what work you need to do, how to be creative with it, doing more of the work, getting it set up to launch, getting it all set up for publishing on Amazon, and what to do after the fact. So if you guys are down for that, give me a little thumbs up, a little high five. Yeah, all right. I know you guys are excited. Save all your questions for the end. There's going to be a lot of them. I'm going to go fast, but the important thing is for you to know I am here to help because this is such a fun process to go through when you start getting into the meat of it. So only a writer only begins the book, but a reader finishes it. And this is important because I want you to understand that it doesn't make sense to write a book if you don't have any intention with it. So here are some reasons why you might want to go out and write your book. Well, first and foremost, I'm looking at all of your beautiful faces here on the screen, and I know every single one of you who are live on this call tonight have a very, very amazing story, and you have some things that you could share with the world that would truly benefit them if they were to listen and learn through your guidance. Because here's the thing. Everyone on this call knows how to make money. We can swing a hammer, we can turn a wrench, we can call the damn leads. Everyone here knows how to make money, but the truth is time is our most valuable asset. It's the thing that we can't get back. And what I know is that if you can share a story and it helps someone else save time in their life, you are giving them an infinitely valuable asset and a gift, to be honest. So for those of you who might have children or might have something that you experience that you know someone else could benefit from, it is your duty, in my opinion, to go out and to share that story and to help the world become a better place. You also have the opportunity to become the authority in your industry or in your marketplace. So let's say maybe if you were in real estate or in insurance per se, or maybe you owned a company about selling stuff and you wanted to write a book to let people know why you were an expert on sales. That's what I did. It's called Call the Damn Leads. Imagine that. And so going out and writing a book can help you become an authority, because here's what I know. If you and a competitor were to walk into my office and I need a specific service, let's say maybe I need a roof. I don't know, I'm just going to pick one. And two competitors show up at my house and tell me they want to sell me a roof. And the first guy, he tells me everything and he hands me his business card on about his day. Second guy shows up, same spiel, same exact offer, same everything, except instead of leaving me a business card, he says, hey man, I just want you to know I actually wrote a book on roofing and why it's so important to work with a high quality roofer and some things that you might want to think about or learn about whether you work with us or not. This is something I like to do to go above and beyond for my clients to make sure that they're educated and know everything they need to know in order to make a well-informed decision. Well, I mean, at that point, the guy's basically telling me everything I need to know to be an expert and saying, hey, buddy, I literally wrote the book on this topic. Stands to reason he's probably going to have a little more authority, in my opinion, and have a little more credibility in the sense of, well, if this guy wrote a book on the topic, he probably knows a thing or two about what the heck he's talking about. So if you're in an industry where being an expert or having some level of expertise and authority is important to your brand, a book is a great way to get out there, let the world know who you are, give them some things to like you because you're telling some stories they relate with, but to really create that level of trust because you solidified yourself as the authority with your book. You guys with me so far? Right on. So where do you get started? This is one of the most important things when it comes to writing a book. I've worked with a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, and they're like, hey, I'm going to go and I'm going to write a book because that's the thing that I see all these people I know doing. That's great, except that if there's not a purpose, there's no reason. So the thing that I look at is the same with sales, same with your book. First and foremost, who is it for? Are you writing a book for kids? Are you writing a book for potential clients? Are you writing a book to, create naughty, raunchy cinema? Whatever it may be for you, you have to pick who is your core audience. Who are you writing this book for? And ultimately, what are they going to get out of the book? Because there's going to be something that they're standing to gain from reading it. They're going to invest their time in this book and in you. So what are they going to gain from finishing your book? And that's where you lead into the next point of having a book is to give them the next step, right? You don't make someone an offer in sales unless you want them to pay you money or to take the next step and use your product or service. Same thing applies when you're writing a book. If you're creating a book, it's with an intentionality of giving them a reason to know, like, and trust you, and then giving them the next step to take after they've built that level of trust. Because when you do that, you're now creating what we call a funnel or an elevator to the top, where you're giving them something of value in exchange for them to take that next step and provide you a phone number, an email, sign up for your list. Maybe you have like a consultation offer that you put in there because it's like, hey, I'm going to show you everything you need to know so that you never have to hire a guy like me ever. But if you do end up deciding that you want to hire a guy like me, here's how you can do it and save a couple of bucks. So putting that call to action at the end of your book for the next step for them to take is how you start creating a business mind using this book as an authority piece. And the beautiful thing is that most of the time when you're writing a book as a business owner, you're doing it because you want to have something to go along with your presentation, or so that when you show up and you're giving either a sales pitch or you're trying to build a relationship, you have something that you can leave like a business card, as I had mentioned earlier. So the cool thing about this, and what I realized in my own journey of book writing and creating presentations, is it kind of falls in line in the same process. It all starts with creating an outline. So let's get down to the meat of this. Let's say, all right, now we know we're going to write a book for our prospects. Let's just stick from a business and entrepreneurial standpoint, since that's who the majority of you guys are that are on this call. You're going to write a book for your ideal client. And inside that book, what you're trying to do is help your ideal client go from where they are now to having all of the information they need to make the right decision to move forward with your product or service. And so it's essentially you're going to like educate them and give them all the things that they need to know so that they can move forward in the right fashion with the information and the knowledge that they need. Same thing when you're creating a presentation, right? So the outline is, hey, who are you? Why are you here? Why are you the authority to tell this and give them this information? And then moving them through those couple of stories that create impact. So it's almost kind of like, hey, here's my story. Here's why I think you should listen to what I have to say, get to know me a little bit. And then here's a couple of very impactful lessons that you can take away from the story. Because what's he say? Facts tell, stories sell. If I just sit here and I give you a whole bunch of facts and information, it's going to be boring. We've all read one of those books that's kind of like you just get numbers and numbers and numbers and you're like, all right, I'm out of here. But if there's a story to it and there's a lesson that you can take away from it, it creates an emotional connection and it actually makes a longer lasting impact. As you get to the end of the stories, you got to wrap it all up and you got to give them that call to action, right? So you're like, okay, cool. Now, after everything that I've just said and talked to you about, here's the things that you need to take away and here's the next steps to take with it. You tracking with me so far, y'all? All right, awesome. So this is the creative process made simple, because a lot of people hear that and they're like, well, Drewbie, I don't know, like, how am I going to come up with all this, or what stories do I tell, or how do I put all of this in place once I've started building my presentation? So here's what you're going to start with. Again, it always comes back to the audience and the offer. Who are we speaking to? And what are we trying to help them do or solve? And this is the greatest formula of all time, is how to get X without doing Y in Z. So X is the thing that they want. So it's like, how do I get a new roof? How do I lose 10 pounds? How do I buy a new home? How do I get my first investment property? Whatever that thing that they want. And then how do I do that without having to do Y, which is the thing they don't want? So it's like, hey, how do I lose 10 pounds without giving up my favorite foods? How do I buy my first investment property with no money down? How do I get a new roof without having to pay my insurance deductible? Which is illegal, by the way, but I'm just talking crazy at this point. You know what I'm saying? So like, what are these things that they want without having to do the thing they don't want? And if you can give them a time frame, that really solidifies it. So as I kind of did with this offer, it's like, hey, who wants to learn how to write a book in 30 days or less? It's like, well, I want to learn how to write a book. I don't know how to write a book, but I'd like to be able to do it. And I'd like to be able to do it in less than 30 days. That'd be fucking cool. So now there's an incentive. There's a reason for you to want to show up and to listen to this. Same thing when you're creating the offer for your book and the title. This is where you want to dial in on like, hey, what's that impact? What's going to be the value proposition? And when they see it, how are they going to feel like, okay, cool, this is something that can help me. So like my next book is going to be Call the Damn Leads, which is a very attention grabbing headline. And then the subtitle is going to be From Clicks to Contracts, Revolutionizing Sales and Follow-Up in the Digital Era. So then now it's like, okay, well, I'm calling the damn leads. That makes sense. Sales and follow-up's a big part of that. But the digital era, what's that mean? Because like I know we're in the digital era, but like how does that differentiate from any other era of sales? Like, what does that even mean here? So now they're going to see it and they're going to be like, all right, well, let me open this up and read the back page. And the back page is where you give them some more information. And the whole idea is that you're trying to get them hooked with something that gets them interested in solving their problem. So that formula, how to get X without doing Y in Z, is the #1 formula of all time. So whatever industry you're in, and we'll talk about some Q&A at the end, but this is how we can start coming up with titles and catchy stuff to get their attention. And for some of you, you may already have a title of your book that's been in your mind for a while. So you're like, no, when I write a book, that's what the title is going to be. I already know, I'm solidified on it. Whatever it is, we just want to make sure that it speaks to the audience and that it conveys the value and the proposition of the book. Creating a cover. Again, you do not have to be a super creative, artistic person to do this. With the AI tools that exist, you can literally go in and tell AI what you want, and it will create a whole cover for you. You can also go to Fiverr and hire someone from Fiverr for less than $50 to create a book cover for you and do all of the formatting and everything. There's a lot that you can do here, but as you can see, this is the cover for my new book. You guys get to see it before the rest of the world. So congratulations as one part of the bonus here. This is the cover for my next book. It's very simple, and yet I also wanted that Call the Damn Leads to be very bold and in your face, because I want people to see that and be like, what the hell is that about? Because if you're in sales or you own a business, when you see that, it's immediately going to speak to you and catch your attention. And then I have the idea of putting it on the phone so that they'll pick it up and say, well, what's on the phone here? Are they signing the deals, their contract, and they're going to read. It's like revolutionizing sales and follow-ups. Fuck, tell me more. So when you're creating your cover ideas, the cool thing now is, like I said, with AI, you can literally go in and tell ChatGPT or DALL-E or whichever one of the ones you're using, hey, I want a guy staring at a phone made, you know, in this kind of light or this sort of scene, and it'll spit it out for you. That's a whole nother training for another day. If you guys want me to do an AI training, we could certainly do that. But this is my point, is you do not have to be super creative or artistic to come up with these things. There's a lot of tools that exist to do this for you and save you a ton of time. All right, so now we're going to get into the work stuff. This is where we're going to like really put the meat on the bone. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to create your outline. We talked about that, right? You have your short introduction. You have a couple of main stories that you want to tell with an important lesson that you can take from each story. And then you want the takeaway to be, okay, now that you've learned everything, here's what you should be knowing and being able to learn from all this, the main key takeaways, and the next steps, which is your call to action. So you have your outline of all these things that you want to talk about, and then you're literally just going to hit record, whether you do it on a Zoom call, you do it on, you know, notes in your phone. You're going to record yourself telling those stories and talking through that introduction of yourself. Because here's the thing, if you sit down and try to type this out, I don't know how many of you are great at typing or writing on the computer. It would take you forever. And not at, like, I barely graduated high school at a 1.6 GPA. I failed sophomore English twice. So the fact that I've got 4 books now should say that you don't have to be an English major or an expert to write a book. You just have to be able to speak, and you have to be able to tell your story. And when you tell your story, you get it recorded, and then you have it transcribed. And what's crazy is when I originally created this presentation back in January, they didn't have as much of the AI as they do now 12 months later. Literally, like, you can go and record it, and I think Zoom even has AI transcription as it is now. So you don't even have to pay for that. It's just all a part of the services that you're already using. You're going to go in, you're going to look at your outline, and you're going to go, okay, introduction, record. This is the introduction. And then you're going to tell your story. And then you're going to hit stop. And you're going to save that file, and you're going to label it introduction. And then you're going to go chapter 1, story 1. Boom. Story 1. What's the lesson? What's the takeaway? So a lot of you might be in Apex and you know, like, hey, what we have the experience, we extract the lesson from that experience, and then we use it to educate our audience by telling a story with it. Same thing applies here. Tell that story, then go have it transcribed, and then take all of those transcriptions over to Fiverr, and you're going to hire an editor to lay out the initial format. You can hire someone, they're usually like college grads or like thesis paper writers. So you say, hey, listen, I'm working on a book. I have all of the transcriptions from everything, and this is the order that I want them in. I want you to go in, I want you to take all of that, and I want you to format it into a book. So you can hire a professional to do this for you for like $100 on Fiverr. Or if you don't want to do that, you can take that transcription and you can go to ChatGPT and you can say, hey, ChatGPT, this is the transcription for my book. This is the introduction. Can you take this transcription and make it into a readable format? And it will spit that out for you. Just like that. Now, I will say, if you only use AI, people will know you use AI to write your book. Like, that's just, you'll delve right into it and you'll just know. But the fact is, you can use it as a tool to make it easier for you to build the foundation, right? So you can tell the story on audio, have it transcribed, and then you can use the AI to take it and format it and make it easier to understand, remove all the likes, ahs, all that kind of stuff, and make it simplified. And you're going to do this a couple times because it's never going to be perfect the first time. So you're going to work through those edits. I would recommend working with someone, to work through the first time just to make sure that you have a different set of eyes on it. But it's not too difficult to put it all in place and read through it and say, yeah, that doesn't look terrible. Now we've got a good foundation. Any publisher that I've ever worked with, we go through 3 rounds of edits. We do the first round, which is kind of the rough draft. And then we go in and we add meat on the bones by adding additional stories and information and details about those stories to make them more impactful and make them more real. And then we send it out, we get a look over, and then we do a final edit, which is proofing. And Anne-Marie was gracious enough to help me with the proofing on my recent book, where it's like I had done all my edits. And at this point, I was just looking for missing commas. I was looking for like weird things that were repeated or words that were spelled wrong, even though they were the right word. It was just wrong. You're going to do a handful of edits. You're going to make sure everything looks good, reads good. And then you're going to build out these sections. You got to have a bio. You got to have your headshot. Some of you may want to get a forward. So if you're in an industry where there's some other expert that's like really well known, you could reach out to them and say, hey, I wrote this book in this industry. You're someone I have a massive amount of respect for and who I've learned from over the years. I would love to see if you'd be interested in writing a forward for my book for me. Could be a friend, could be someone that you know that has mentored with you or mentored you in the years. You don't have to have a forward, but I've seen a lot of people use that as a way to get additional insight and eyes on a book because it's like, well, you wrote a book and then someone who's an expert wrote the forward for it. So there's double, it's almost like getting vouched for, someone be like, yeah, this dude knows what the hell he's talking about. So you can get a forward from an industry expert. You're going to want to thank all of the people who helped you over the years. So this is the acknowledgement section is really hard to write, honestly, because you're trying to think of all the people you want to thank and all the different things that happen to help you put in the situation. But it's all part of the process. And what's really fun about this is as you start writing your book and going through this, it's going to bring up some emotions. It's going to bring up some feelings. I want you to embrace those feelings. I want you to really own them. And I want you to pour that back into the book because it's that emotion, it's that feeling that you're trying to convey. And when the reader picks that up and they can feel it and they get that emotion as well, it creates a level of connection that's almost unbeatable. And that's really how you get to like having people who are telling others about your books. Like, hey, I read this book and it literally changed my life. Now I want to give you a copy. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that deep emotional connection. And when you're feeling it because you're writing it and you're telling these stories, I want you to really embrace that. You guys with me? Badass. All right. So now doing the work part 2 is really the final edits and sending it off to formatting. You're going to read through your book 100 times as you're writing it and working on it. I recommend taking like a 24-hour hiatus and just completely ignoring it. Send it to somebody you know, reach out to a friend or a family member that's willing to like read through it and make sure it doesn't sound totally crazy. But what happens is when you spend a ton of time just constantly looking and looking and looking at it, it's almost like when you're in a house that you've been in all the time and then you go on vacation and you come back and you notice the weird crack in the paint or like the thing that's out of place. You get tunnel vision. So take a minute, step back, send it to somebody to read it, and then sit down and read through one more time and make sure that it flows. Are all the stories translating, right? Because sometimes when you tell a story on audio and then you go through the editing process, it kind of loses some of the keywords, or maybe certain parts of the phrase needs to be rewritten so that it has more impact. This is where you really dive into the meat of like, okay, is everything sensical? When I read this, are they giving the stories off correctly? Is it giving the impact that I want? It's that final edit and proofing and making sure that you have your call to action solid. Because here's what's going to happen. If you send out your book and your call to action isn't solid, you put all of this work into something that isn't going to keep them moving through the process. You do not want to put out a product that just stops them with nowhere else to go. It'd almost be like making a sales offer and then not giving some place for them to pay and keep moving forward with you. It's like, hey, I want to give you all of these things. And they're like, cool, take my money. And then you don't do anything with it. And you don't give them a place to pay their money or do anything. So having your call to action prepped and ready is very, very important, because from there, you're sending this off to publishing and we're getting things done. So this is that last part where you're really going to go in, you're going to solidify everything, you're going to make sure your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, all the Oxford commas are in place. This is that final moment. And once you send it to your formatting team, which you're going to hire from Fiverr, they're going to cost you like 150 bucks, and they're going to create the KDP files, the PDFs, the book cover, everything that you need so that you can really launch this thing to the public. And while that's going on, you're going to start marketing yourself. Because here's what's crazy. You can write a book, but if you don't tell anybody about it, no one's going to buy it. Just being honest with you. A lot of people I've seen wrote a book and they marketed it for like a week, and then they never told anyone else about it. They never said anything about it. And what's the point of writing a book if we're not going to get it in people's hands? So setting this up, letting people know it's coming, this is a great way to build interest. If you're someone who's building this as a way to create like a mastermind program, or you're creating it because you have some new product or service that you want to launch, this is a great way to get people in a little bit early and be like, hey, if you buy in on the book and you jump in early, I'm going to give you a free training. I'm going to give you early access to a community, right? Whatever that might be, there's some different ways to get people excited about it and get them interested in what's to come. So this is kind of like marketing, as long as anything, like your business, a new product or service, you want to get out there, you want to start talking about it. Setting up a private group or a community can be a great way to really get people excited if you're trying to get more friends and family members to share it out there. And then for me, I like to offer bonuses like, hey, I'm going to give you a free training on how I wrote the book in 30 days or less. Hey, I'm going to give you this free sales training. Hey, I'm going to give you the slide deck, right? There's lots of different little things that you can offer for that incentive, because when you hit go, you want to get as many people on there to buy it as possible, because for the most part, when you're creating this book, you want to get out there to become a bestseller so that you have that authority piece as well. When they send back all of your files from the formatter, this is where we're going to go to KDP and Amazon, and we're going to do the setup. I could go through and do all of this in real time, but it takes about an hour and a half, to be honest with you. So I just wanted to give you like the basics. These are all going to be in the slides. Everyone's going to get a copy of this. And if you ever have questions or need help with this, this is something that I'm more than happy to walk you through. But basically, you're going to go in there. You're going to sign up for an Amazon KDP account. You're going to enter all of this information, the title, the description, the keywords. You're going to upload all the files, what you want to charge for it, and then you're going to hit go. And then you're going to wait, because once you've uploaded everything and you've hit publish, it takes anywhere from 3 to 7 days for Amazon to run through it, make sure it's not totally bogus, make sure you're not putting no crazy stuff on their platform, and to approve it to be sent to the world. So that's kind of that time where you're marketing, you're telling people, hey, my book's coming, be ready. I want to be able to send you an email on launch day because I'm going to need your help. You're sharing it on social media, you're getting people hyped. And that's it. That's like, I know this is a whole long thing, but that's it. Literally, you have published your own book and you are well on your way to success. I know this is like, well, Drewbie, that might be a little bit simplified, but the truth is everybody overcomplicates it. The most important part is going back to the beginning and just being willing to do the work. So you've launched your book, you put it out there, promote. It's just like your business, it's just like anything. People are not going to know about it if you don't tell them about it. And I'm looking at all the amazing names and faces on this screen, and I hope that I'm wrong, but I don't know that anybody's going to put out a book and become an overnight celebrity. So just because you wrote the book doesn't mean people are going to buy it. You have to tell people about it. You have to promote it. You have to put yourself out there, and you have to create an opportunity and a reason for people to want to read it. So again, looking at all the names and faces on the screen right now, I know for a fact every one of you has an amazing story and has something that you can share with the world that will be of value. So I'm not concerned about people wanting to read it. I'm concerned that you guys understand how important it is to keep talking about this. And I'm speaking from my own personal experience because, again, I've written 4 books now, and I don't talk about my Crushing the Day book as often as I should, even though it was the first book that I wrote. It's the most powerful mindset book that I have, but it's something that I don't talk about a lot because for me personally, that's not a season of my life that I'm in all the time. I've got my mindset and discipline dialed in, but there's still times where it's important to promote it. So whatever you decide to do, make sure you keep talking about and promoting your book because people need to read it. They need to hear your story because there's another person out there who could benefit and change their life because of it. So whenever you get this going, you got to just keep talking about it because not everybody's read it. And one of the things that we become guilty of is like, oh man, my book's been out for a month, 2 months, a year. People already know about it. They've already read it. Well, there's literally billions of people on the planet, and you can't tell me that every single one of them's read your book yet. So we're going to keep talking about it. And I'm saying this as much for me as I am for you, but I just want you to understand the importance that when you do this, you're going to keep sharing it with the world because you're putting your heart and soul into this and making something that matters. So, all that to say, thank you for hanging out with me tonight. If you want to write a book, if you have questions, if you're like, hey man, I'd like a little more guidance, I am giving you an opportunity to work together with me. We will do a one-on-one session. We'll deep dive into your idea, your book plan, some things. If you have questions, you want to understand more, I will be more than happy to help get that going for you. Again, I've paid over $15,000 to publishers and editors over the last couple of years to learn everything that I just taught you on this call for free. And so if I can help you a little further, I would love to do so. Just scan that QR code and we can take a look. With that, it is 7:36. So I am going to stop sharing my screen and I am going to open things up for Q&A. Give me a second here. All right. Perfect. Okay, so anybody have questions, just raise your hand and I will open you up and we'll get this going. Let's see. Anne-Marie, you're up first.
Okay, so how does one know when they have a story worthy of being put into a book format?
Anne-Marie, that's a ridiculous question coming from you, dear, but I will answer it because there's
No,
other
it's
people that
not.
need to know. So here's the way I look at this. The time to write a book is when you feel as though you've personally accomplished a goal that you've been working towards. And so the way I say that is like for you, you overcame a heck of a childhood. You've overcome, the crash in '08. So you've had a lot of experiences in your life that someone could stand to like hugely, hugely benefit from learning your story. So for you, Emery, I would say you should have written your book probably 2 or 4 years ago, but we didn't know each other yet. So you didn't know what you don't know. I
Right.
think in your situation, especially where you are trying to position yourself as an expert in wealth management and understanding how to properly build a life of long-term legacy, you're 100% in a position to write a book. And you're in a great place because you do have such an amazing story of triumph and overcoming that will add to the level of respect that a reader has for you after they read that book. And that will give you that much more emotional connection to someone to say, well, hey, if I'm going to invest my money with someone or I'm going to trust someone to help me invest my money in a wise way, knowing her story, that's definitely someone that I want to work with.
Got it.
Okay. And same thing for like, Rob, I'm looking at you on the street. Like you've accomplished some amazing things in your life on your journey. Andrew, same thing. You guys have this story where you've overcome. So the next step is to tell that story and just share and know that this is just one chapter because you're going to have more chapters. What I see a lot of people deal with is like, well, I don't know if I've done enough yet. Well, hey, you could say I've done everything up to this point. This is everything I know to right now. And then you can write another book in a year, 2 years, 5 years, however long that may be for the next chapter of things. But you have to close this chapter out so that you can move into the next chapter. Hopefully that made sense. Morgan, you're up, brother.
Hey man, I appreciate you doing this, Drew.
Of course.
So I've been horribly working on writing a book for going on 2 years now. I same as you. In college, I was told I had the level of a fifth grader. From one of my graduating professors. The book's just coming very slow. I guess my struggle is finding the direction with it. Like I know what I want to write the book about, but it's taking all the pieces, all the stories that I've got. Like you said, three. Well, hell, I've got 100 I've started writing, and taking the ones that are going to be important and putting them into a coherent book. And how do you turn that into a lesson? I know the lesson from it, but without sounding redundant of here's the story, here's the lesson. That's where I'm struggling with bringing it all together.
No, that's very, it's not uncommon to deal with. I know I kind of had that same thing. So what I look at it is, what is the end result that you're wanting the person who reads it to get? And that's how you kind of slim down to saying, okay, well, where are they now? And where do I want them to be when they're done reading the story? So like an easy example is like, all right, well, hey, I used to be fat. Now I'm not fat anymore, and that makes me happy. And so the stories that I'm going to tell are, hey, the introduction is this is how I, came up, and this was the lifestyle that I was living, and where I was and why I wasn't happy with it. Here's the things that happened that progressed me to making these decisions and kind of led me to being this new person. So it's like, hey man, I don't know. My wife told me she didn't want to have sex with me anymore because she wasn't attracted to me. So like that fucking hurt. So I was like, I can get my shit together. Right. And then it was like, okay, so like we did that. And then it was like, well, I started getting my act together, and then I got a big head and started acting like an asshole. And then she didn't want to sleep with me then either. I was like, well, fuck, all right. So now I look good, but I'm an asshole. So I got to get my mindset dialed in. And it's like, now that I got that dialed in, it's like, now I got to get my money right. And it's like, well, all right, well, cool. So now you're seeing the progression of, okay, well, you work here, and these are the things that happened in my life that got me here. So these are the lessons I'm going to tell and the stories that I'm going to share so that you'll understand the impact and relate to them so that you'll make that decision to take action also.
Okay. I can see that. And that's where I've been struggling is a lot of my great stories that I have are simply that they're great stories, but how to relate them to the topic of where I'm going with everything. Because a lot of the stories are going to catch people's attention. They're going to get you wanting to read a book, but is it the book that I'm writing?
And that's where you have to decide who is the audience. It's kind of like building a funnel. It's like, who's the audience? Who's the offer? And what are we like? What tools are we giving them to take action with? So if we know we're writing it for kids who we want to handle ADHD, well, okay, cool. We need those specific stories and lessons to be catered to someone that deals with that situation and will understand and be able to say, okay, well, I relate to that, so I'm going to stop doing that thing, or I'm going to make this change because of it.
That makes sense.
Good.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
You got it. You got it. Any other questions?
What is the
Sam?
KP?
Hold on. Yeah, Sam. You gotta unmute yourself, bub.
Good. Hey, can you hear me?
There he is.
All right. Yeah. So, I guess I'm. Now it's gonna sound like I was in the military again. To piggyback off of what one of them said, like last year, I did the most. I guess you could say the most phenomenal year I've ever done in my life that I've been working for forever, and then finally was able to pull it. This year, I got real close to duplicating it which is very hard because I'm in real estate, which is taking a pretty good hit, but it's not bad if you know how to.
Sure.
It's everything's a number game, so I'm really really good with numbers. But anything I think about talking about, it's like something that one of the people that you see, Ryan Stewman, talk about, like, well, they don't know what they're talking about because they never lived that or they never done that, and it's the online gurus that don't know anything. So I would be competing with those kind of like agents. How do you combat that?
So I call that imposter syndrome, because you as a human recognize you don't know what you don't know. And yet you're also like, yeah, but I've got some things that I'm an expert in. So like, I'm not afraid to stand up and talk about what I know. So there is that weird, like, it's almost like integrity where you don't want to go up there and be like, hey man, I can show you how to become a millionaire, because you may not be a millionaire and you don't want to lie to people.
Yeah.
Although you could go up there and say, hey man, let me show you how a guy who used to be in the military and made less than $50,000 a year was able to go and change his life and make multiple six figures. Because that might
Okay.
be true. And if that's true, then you're not, like, you're doing the right thing. And what most people deal with, I think, when they're thinking about writing the book is like, well, what gives me the right to write a book? Because what have I really done in my life? And that's just some bullshit, because every single one of you has done some awesome things in your life and has some stories to tell and could write a book about. And also, I think it's important to remember that you still recognize that you know there's more for you in life, and so you're still chasing after it. But there's a lot of people who would literally kill to have what you have right now. And they would be happy with that, and they would be like, dude, if I could just have what he has in life, my life would be fucking set. And so you're talking to that individual. You're not trying to talk to the guys that are farther ahead than you are. You're trying to talk to the person that's you 5 years ago, when you were like, man, I just don't know if life can get any worse than this. Or
Ooh, I
how
can
am I
actually
gonna,
relate that.
yeah, exactly. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So like,
Okay.
that's who
Yeah.
you're speaking to. You're not speaking to the guys that are ahead of you. You're speaking to the guy that's where you were and helping them get to where you are.
Okay.
Does that help?
Perfect. Yes. Yes. Because I got a lot of knowledge I can give people, especially with closing and how to get the max amount of closing costs for any deal. But I'm sure there's someone better than me somewhere. That's what's holding me back.
Hey man, there's always going to be someone better than you. That doesn't matter. The point is, you're going to write the book and put it out there, and that person who's going to be better than you is going to see that and go, well, fuck man, how did you write a book? And you're gonna be like, well, let me show you.
Okay.
Let me share some game with you. Right? And so now that's all it is. You have something that they want too. It's just a matter of helping the person that you're trying to write the book for get from where they are to where they want to be.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
You got it, Sam. All right, Luke, you're up next.
Absolutely, brother. Yeah, appreciate you doing this, man. You talked about being a digital era, and granted, you made all of this sound a lot easier than I expected to, so I'm not sure my question 100% still applies, but my book idea would be targeting newcomers in my own industry, since it's one that has a high fail rate, helping them actually get their business off of the ground and avoid the common pitfalls, all that jazz. Do you think there is a huge importance in having a physical copy, or knowing that my target audience should be comfortable and capable of downloading PDFs and having that saved on their computer, etc.?
Yeah, you have both. So what I do
That's
is
what
I
I'm trying
have
to
the
do.
physical copy that you can order on Amazon, and then what I'll do is I'll put it on a website and say, hey, if you order it, I'll send you the digital download right now for free.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got from your presentation. It seemed a lot easier to produce the physical format than I expected. So
Yeah, and honestly, man, with AI and the way that they've made things so easy, you can spit this stuff out and like super quick. We could have an ebook within the next 24 hours, bro. You and I can sit down and hammer that thing out this afternoon. So it's not as difficult as you think. It is going to take some work and there's going to be some effort to it, but yeah, man, I think you would want the physical and the digital, because then when you go to meet somebody maybe you're at a networking event or you're at a showing or whatever, you can just leave a copy of your book there and just be like, oh, hey, I left this for you, by the way. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
that's
for all
true.
you other showing agents that are coming in, I left my book. Grab yourself a copy. It
Yeah,
might be a dick move, but I mean, hey, authority piece.
amen. Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions?
So Amazon creates the physical copy for you?
Yeah, so when you upload everything to KDP, and Marie, I know you had asked, like, what is KDP? So KDP is Kindle Direct Publishing. That is their publishing house that they own. So when you upload all of your files into KDP, you're basically telling them, hey, I agree to split the cost and commissions on this book with you. So if you put it on Amazon, I think if you sell your book for $10 for a paperback copy, I believe you make $1.50 per copy that you sell is like what you get to take home out of it. Because Amazon takes 70% or something of it, and then there's a book printing fee or whatever. So like you don't make a ton of money on the book itself. You make money on the upsell and the opportunities that come from having written the book. Does that make sense? But yeah, as soon as you upload all the files, they do everything. All you got to do is just hit go. And then when someone orders it, they send it to their print house. It gets printed in their warehouse and shipped out to the person, usually within 24 hours or whatever it is. If you're ordering copies for yourself, you can order author copies through KDP. I want to say they're $2.50 a book. And then you pay, I think, I don't know, another couple bucks for shipping or whatever it is when you send them out. So I usually order 50 or 100 at a time. And then I just keep a handful on deck that I can ship out from the house or have with me if I need them. But for the most part, it's a lot easier to just let Amazon be responsible for all that. Because first of all, you don't want to house 1,000 books. It's fucking a lot. And then you don't want to pay to have a bunch of books that don't sell either. And Marie?
So I've noticed that almost everybody is on the bestseller list. How are they rated? How do they get there?
So that is a real tricky algorithm that you have to know and understand. So that's another part of why you want to work with someone like me on the end of this, is because when you're uploading it, it gives you categories that you can choose from. And so that's where you go bestseller. So the marketing strategy is, hey, if I was a best-selling author on Amazon in the category of entrepreneurship, it stands to reason that I probably know something about entrepreneurship. Because when you put the book out and it releases and they start grading it based on how many copies were ordered, how many people actually went to the page itself and ordered a copy versus just clicked on it and clicked away, how many reviews that it got within the first 72 hours, how many of those reviews were from people who actually bought the book, got it shipped to their house, and then waited 24 to 48 hours to post that review. Because here's the thing is, like, a lot of people are like, well, yeah, just go put a bunch of reviews up. But Amazon's not stupid. If someone goes and orders your book and then leaves a review, it's like, oh, 5 stars, amazing book. I read it, and loved it. It's like, well, it hasn't even been shipped to your house yet. There's no way that you read it and loved it already. So they have an algorithm where they actually measure and watch, like, how many books sold, how many people looked at it. All, like, there's a whole mathematical equation for it. The idea of being a bestseller, though, is it's a marketing piece. It's an authority piece. So Social Media Mastery, my book on social media, was a bestseller in social media for business, and in social media for home-based businesses. So when I do my marketing, it's like, hey, I wrote a best-selling book in these 3 categories. Are you in any of these 3 categories, social media marketing, or a home-based business? They're like, well, yeah. Like, okay, cool. Well, I wrote a book that was a bestseller in that category. Here's why you should read it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So to go bestseller is where the marketing comes into play. That's where it's like, hey, having a launch strategy and being like, okay, my book's coming out on the 15th. I need my gals and my friends and my homies to all get together and go and order a book for me on the same day so that we can drive it up in the algorithm and get it up the ranks and get a bestseller status. That's where having a strong community and having a good, you know, group of people around you can help to promote it, to drive it to that bestseller status. And that's honestly what we did a lot in the last couple of years, is we had a small community of people to be able to say, hey, you're going to go and buy them, and we're just going to all promote to our people, and everybody would promote it, and we'd drive them up to the bestseller list pretty quickly. And then Amazon changed it so that you have to sell a certain number of copies. You have to get a certain number of actual reviews. You have to have a certain number of people go to the page itself and actually click through and look at it from different IP addresses, versus like everybody in the office orders 50 books. And so now you've sold 250 books and get bestseller status. Don't work that way. So that's a whole other strategy in a back end of the marketing that, like, I'm not necessarily giving away on this call, except for right here. Getting the bestseller status is a whole nother beast in itself once you've written the book.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. That looks to be everyone. Again, man, I really appreciate everyone who took the time out of their evening to be here. I really, really hope that you got something of value out of this. If so, go back on one of those posts and make sure everybody knows that they missed out on a super awesome, amazing call, and that they didn't get a chance to learn how to write their freaking book. And now that you're all here and you know this, I fully expect all of you to be working on your book and be reaching out to me and saying, hey, Drewbie, I'm working on my book, man. This is what I'm doing. What do I need to do? How do I do this, that, whatever? Because I would love to see all of you launch your book in 2024, because you now have the skill set to do so in less than 30 days. Will you do it in less than 30? I don't know. Maybe one of you will. I think so. Either way, I appreciate y'all. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I look forward to catching up with you guys on the next one. Go call them damn leads, y'all. See ya.
Thanks, man.